In today's video, I'm going to give you my 3-year review, my thoughts and impressions on this Hercules 7 amp 4.5 inch angle grinder I picked up from Harbor Freight. Now, when I was in a market for a new angle grinder 3 years ago, I did my homework. I went on YouTube and I watched all the videos, and this really seemed to be the best bang for the buck. You know, I looked at getting a DeWalt, and, you know, they were going for about $69, $79 at the time, as well as the Makitas. And this just fit at a really great price point. I think at the time, 3 years ago, it was like a $39.99 or maybe a $41.99 retail. And I actually got it for $34.99. Now, I know they've since gone up a little bit, but I still see coupons for these quite frequently for about I think $37.99, and they often have 20% off coupons as well. Harbor Freight has 3 lines of a lot of things, and they consider it like the good, better, and best. And I think Chicago Electrics, they're good. The Bauer, which Scoutcrafter really likes, is they're good. And the Hercules is considered the best. And when I did my homework on this, I was watching those YouTube videos, and there was guys that would rip these apart and get into all the components in it, and they said that the parts that were used in this were just as good quality as, like I mentioned earlier, DeWalt and I believe even Makita. They did say some of the components in it were plastic and whatnot, but that's pretty much par for the course. Now, when you're buying one of these, you know, it's not one of those items like I usually love to do and go out and get one that's used and whatnot, because they're usually beat to death when you find one that's used. You know, someone's been grinding welds with it, gets thrown around, banged around. You very rarely can find one of these used, and this is just the best bang for your buck, in my opinion. In the last 3 years, I've gotten some pretty good use out of it. Now, obviously, I don't use it in a commercial setting, but I use it, you know, quite a bit on weekends and whatnot, and I use the flap discs a lot. I can sometimes use it for, you know, 45 minutes at a time when I'm really grinding on something that's a larger size, as well as these fiber wheels. You know, they can, you know, they heat up a lot and put a lot of stress on it, and it generally does pretty well. The first year I had to redo a concrete wall or a brick wall in my backyard, and I was using these cutoff discs to cut a lot of the bricks, and I cut a couple dozen bricks with it. Now, because of the size of the 4.5 inch ones, it makes it a little bit challenging because you can't cut all the way through the brick, but you would have to flip it over and do the other side. Hence the reason why I like this one so much. This year I picked this one up a couple months ago on a Black Friday sale, and this is the big brother of the one I just showed you. And I'll show you a little bit of the differences between the two of them in a minute, but this one is a 13 amp, and what's really cool about this is it goes from 4.5 inch up to 6 inch, so it comes with different size shields in there, so I could have did a lot easier job with the bricks with that. And then there's actually an intermediate one, which is an 11 amp, and that one is it has a paddle switch, so they all have a little bit of different of a switch configuration. But you can find this big one. I got this one on sale for, I believe, $79.99. And you could usually find the 11 amp on sale for, I don't know, somewhere in that 59 to 65 range, I believe. All right, so let me point out a couple of differences here besides the fact that this is 7 amp and this is 13 amp. The first thing I want to get out of the way is I really like the fact that it has all these different guards that you could put on it, so you can use a lot larger. In my case, it would usually be probably a cutting disc when I have to cut concrete or something like that, and I'll have the added power to do so. So you got the 3 sizes there, which is the 4.5 that's on it, the 5, and the 6 inch. Now, on here I currently don't have the guard, and you know, you should always use the guard, and I pretty much always do, but if I am using a flap disc and I do got a tight spot, I will take it off, but I always make sure to always have really good PPE when using one of these angle grinders. And the next thing is a personal preference, and it depends on who you talk to. They'll tell you what they like better. This here, you just click it on, And once it's on, it's on. You could use it one-handed. It is a little bit fat here, so if you had really small hands, that might be a disadvantage for you. But I've had absolutely no issues with it. I generally always do use two hands. I like the fact that I don't have to hold the trigger down. You could make the argument that it would be safer if it had some sort of paddle switch or not, but for me, it's just worked great and had no complaints with it. And actually, I've come to really like the fact that it has that click-on switch. And the larger one here is noticeably longer. It's probably about 4 or 5 inches longer. The bodies are about the same, but it has this rat tail, I guess, design, and it's nice and ergonomic. It's got a great rubber to it, where this one is really just a hard plastic, so I kind of like this better from that standpoint, but it's a lot longer. And when you're working on something, getting down on something, I don't know if I'm going to use that one, for a lot of the smaller projects. You could lock it in, it looks like. It's got a lock there. But in the same sense, I guess you could use it one-handed, or you could choke up on it. But for the most part, this would probably be used more holding it on the trigger like that versus locking it in. I guess you could do it and lock it in. It's got like that safety on it. So just a matter of preference. I'll have to see how I go to learn and if I really like that one when I'm using it. So I really don't think you could go wrong with any of these models, as they're probably 40% cheaper than anything else you'll find. And they're made really just as well from all the reviews and everything I see online. These are the best bang for your buck, in my opinion, and you should get really good long use out of them. And this is just one of those things where, you can never have enough of, right? It's great to have a couple of them. So even if you use flap discs a lot, you could put different grit flap discs so you're not changing them all around. Or if you want to have, in this case, a grinding wheel on it, or a fiber wheel, you're not always constantly switching and moving, and could save you a lot of time. And then there's always going with a cordless option, but then you're getting into, you're going up a lot in price. You're getting into that $200 range at least to get something with the same comparable speed and power for something that you could get for basically, under $40, or substantially more power for, $80. So let me know in the comments section, your thoughts, your comments, your preferences. Always love to hear from you guys. I just really wanted to share my thoughts. And if you remember, I liked mine so much that last year during one of the Scout Crafter challenges, the Tool Tote Challenge, I actually made a really, what I consider a pretty neat case for my angle grinder, and it's got a lid on it that can hold some accessories, as you always need, the key here to tighten everything up. They usually come with some extra brushes, which are great. You always need PPE, so I always like keeping an extra set of glasses and gloves right next to my angle grinder, so when I need it, I have it. And then the way I made this is the lid lifts right off, and then you can see in here, the way I designed it is that all of the discs will sit on a spindle, and the actual angle grinder will go on that side, and I got my little cutters down there, my discs, and it will fit right into the drawer of my toolbox. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll put it at the end, and I'll talk to you all soon and see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.